The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Peace be unto you. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad. Welcome to Liberated Sisters. Today we have a full Liberated Sisters Justice Report. Our guest is human rights attorney, my friend, my sister, my mentor, oh my God, my hero, Attorney Nana Gyamfi is in studio with us today. I want to take her hand and I just want to say, champion for the people, and she's here. I'm so grateful because she has so much that she does. She's in court every day. She has her own podcast, not to mention she's the managing director for Badgie Black Alliance for Just Immigration, and on and on and on. So we're going to chop it up for you today about what's happening in current events. Nana's going to analyze that, and you don't want to miss it. And please spread the word that we're on right here, recording live at Morris Media Studios. Now, in today's Justice Report, taking us further into the show, is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan spoke on the resurrection and the life, the reality of Jesus, and more at the American Clergy Leadership Conference in Chicago this past Saturday. Let's hear more from Minister Farrakhan, and we'll be back with Attorney Nana Gyamfi.
In the name of Allah, God, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but He, the One, the originator of the heavens and the earth, the sender of all prophets, the revealer of all truth. To Him alone do I submit and seek refuge. I thank Him for His prophets and messengers and the scriptures which they brought. And I thank Him most especially for my teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who taught and teaches me, and who guides me.
Yes, sir.
And I thank Him for shaping me as a servant of God and as a servant of our people and as a servant of humanity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I greet all of you, especially my brother, my pastor, my friend, my companion in struggle, Pastor T.L. Barrett, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. To my beloved brother who introduced me in a manner that brought tears to my eyes, gratitude to my heart for the beautiful expression of love for God and His Christ that you exemplified this morning. The song was most appropriate. And to my dear pastor, I was not the least bit disturbed in Detroit. I smiled.
You smile.
For 9 hours. Because those who saw the worst in them, I really saw the best in them. So I was not bothered by an apparent disrespect, because my brother Bishop, he embraced me on that rostrum and ushered me to that seat and hugged me. And we shared love between us. But somehow, sometimes, as men of God, not mature yet in the mind and spirit of God, we fear men as we ought to fear God. So not wanting to hurt the feelings of others, he didn't mind trying to hurt mine. But you can't hurt me like that. Because you're right. You're right, Pastor. I know who I am, and I know what I am, and I know whose I am. And so I loved him all the way through. Because God is love. And Jesus, the most magnificent of all the prophets, because he was not a prophet, he was the end of prophets. Jesus was the greatest and is the greatest symbol of love that has ever walked among men, because in Jesus, the Messiah, is the indwelling mind and spirit of him who originated the heavens and the earth. When you know him, when you are one of those who has surrendered to God to do his will, you're not disturbed by the ignorance of the people to whom you have been missioned to raise them from a dead level to a living perpendicular and put them on the square with God. So I am so happy to be with you this morning. It's always, to me, one of the greatest honors to speak to those who represent God to the people who know him not. You're very special. Imam, ministers, bishops, apostles, you're very special. I hope that when I finish today, you will be more convinced of how special you are and the work that is yet to be done. And even though some of us have gotten up in age, like your brother, as long as I have breath, I want to praise God. As long as I have the energy of life, I want to praise God. And when the energy of life is too much for the flesh to continue to hold it, I want to leave this earth with the praise of God on my lips.
Yes, sir.
I'm not offended by my people because I know who they are. That's a beautiful song that you sung, and you sung it as beautiful as the song is. See, Jesus was never offended by the people whom he was sent to save. He knew their condition, and he knew who put them in that condition. So the scripture says, he came to save his people from what? So why would he be bothered by their sins if he came to save them from their sins? Because he looked beyond their sins and knew who they were. So he wasn't talking to the sin, he was talking to the hidden presence of God that resides in his people. Now, you know, I don't come with notes, I just come with spirit. When Jesus was with his disciples, and the disciples asked him after he made a statement of clarity on how God judges. He said, the disciples asked him, Master, when were you hungry and we fed you not? When were you thirsty and we gave you not drink? When were you out of doors and we gave you not shelter? When were you sick and imprisoned and we ministered not unto you? And the master said, inasmuch as you have not done these things to the least of these, my brethren. Don't let that word brethren slip you now. Jesus was saying that those outside of me, you like to worship what you see in me, but what you see in me is what is hidden in you. And Jesus had come to resurrect them from the dead state that they were in. So he had the mind and spirit to look beyond their faults, to address their needs. So I'd like to go to the Genesis, because that's where stuff begins. In the beginning. The Bible says in the first book of Moses, don't let that slip you. Moses, the liberator. Don't let that get by. And don't get it twisted. The first book of Moses, he's talking about a beginning that he was not present at.
Come on.
But he was present at the genesis of a people that were dead. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. But the Spirit of...
That is, you like that, Nana?
I did.
That's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking at the American Clergy Leadership Conference in Chicago. You can hear his message in entirety at noi.org. Also on his Facebook page, as well as his YouTube page, Minister Louis Farrakhan. Nana is going to take us further into the Justice Report. And so, as I told you before, this is Attorney Nana Gyamfi, right here out of Los Angeles, human rights attorney. Nana has been on the front lines. Oh, my God. When I started writing for the Final Call, when I moved to Los Angeles, I met her here. And she was a large figure, larger than life. And I would not have imagined that Allah would bless me to be able to not only interview her, cover the news that she generates, but to be able to call her today my dear sister and friend. No one could tell me that. I feel that way. I don't know if I told you that before, but that's how I feel about Sister Dr. Minister Amber Muhammad. You know, we just saw her in Las Vegas. Yes.
That's fire right there.
God, I should have. Yeah. We just saw her in Las Vegas. And she's speaking out for Minister Farrakhan. She's on a tour talking about separation. She's but she's laying out the case for separation because it's been made, and giving more information to our people. But we just saw her, and I was thinking the same thing, like, wow, she says my name, right? You know, we're not stargazing, just honoring those that we know and love that are really worthy of these accolades. So, Attorney Nana Gyamfi, welcome back to Liberated Sisters.
Thank you so very much. It is so thrilling to be your sister friend, as well as to be here on the show. Always appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So let's chop it up about what's happening. You know, there's some things that I want to talk about in the Final Call newspaper, but I think the first thing I want to go to, and of course you drive the conversation because I know you're working on things. We have what's happening with our Black immigrants here.
Yes.
So I want to just cover as much as we can, and I want to take your lead on it in terms of what you're seeing that's happening that our folk need to know about. But I want to start with Botham Jean.
You know what I was saying? I was just about to say, let's start with Botham Jean. That's how I want to start this conversation.
Thank you.
About Black immigration, because it's right there, right?
Yes.
Right at that intersection.
Yes.
So Botham Jean is a 26-year-old brother from St. Lucia. Fortunately for him, his family is really prominent in St. Lucia. His family has been in Parliament. They've been in the cabinet of the government there. Otherwise, Sister Charlene, we probably wouldn't even know about what's happening, and there would be no attention being paid whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
But he was in Dallas. He worked as an accountant with an accounting firm, was minding his business. His mother had actually approved of this apartment building that he had moved into because it was just blocks away from the police station.
Wow.
And being not understanding what it means to be Black in America, she thought that was a good idea. Right? Yeah. And I'm not blaming her at all, because this is what we think. We're told, as immigrants that, hey, the United States is the land of the free and the home of the brave and all of that. And so he was blocks away from the apartment building, and Amber Guyger, a white woman who had been with the department about 5 years, is my understanding, who actually had been assigned to like a special unit. She also lived in the apartment building, but on a floor beneath him. She claims that she came into the apartment building, that she thought she was going to her apartment, that she put her key into the door, and there was a problem, but the door was ajar, and so then she opened it up. She saw a large figure that she couldn't see well, and so decided to pull out her gun, her service gun. She was in full uniform, and shot Botham Jean dead. And so we know that she killed him. We know she murdered him. Mm-hmm. We also know that there's no reason for her to have believed that this apartment was her apartment. Mm-hmm. It's one of those, cookie cutter type of places. Yeah. So people go out of their way to fix the cookie, right? So they put reeds on their doors and that kind of thing. He had a bright red rug. When I say bright red, I'm talking about Christmas red.
Come on.
Not a slip, but, a pretty rug that has like that curve, right? That's like a half moon, half oval type of rug. Also,
she on the crescent.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. She also, in her statement that she made to the police, to her other police, to her friends, said that when she called 911, that she had gone back to look at the door to see what apartment number it was. That's also weird. You didn't notice when you walked up on the door what apartment number was on the door. So this is red rug that you don't have a red rug. Yeah. There's a number on the door that is clearly not your door. And yet you go in and you kill someone.
I'm scared of her as you continue. That's like she'll get a call to chase this car that's white and will go and chase some blue.
Exactly.
You on the street? Really?
Right. And shoot folks dead. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so there has been so much that has come out of this. This is obviously not the first time that Dallas police has killed a black person. Yeah. And this is just the latest of their string of victims in terms of black folks. But it goes where blackness and immigration cross, right? Because when I think of what happened, I cannot imagine that this woman went to the wrong door and that she just somehow entered. And there's no evidence, and I want to make this clear because there's been a lot of rumors. They didn't know each other. They're not on the same floor. They weren't dating. There's none of that.
Yeah, there's a picture circulating. And
correct. That's not her in the picture.
Isn't that something?
It's not her in the picture. They're not connected in that way. I think, and again, it's my speculation, that she came to the door, that the door was not locked, that she was in full uniform, and that being a black immigrant that hadn't sort of gotten the word on what it means to be black with the police, he opened the door because he saw a police officer on the other side, because she was in full uniform, and that he opened the door, and that's how she got into the apartment. Now, why did she get into the apartment? Who knows? But I think that it's a call out, and I'm glad there's a group, Mothers Against Police Brutality. Sister Sarah, I think Mariah is her last name. And I'm sorry, Sister Sarah, if I'm saying your name incorrectly, but she's one of the co-founders, and and the organization have really been pressing, along with the attorney Lee Merritt, who's there, and Black Alliance for Just Immigration. They did a joint press conference, really to point out the inconsistencies, but also to point out the hypocrisy, right? Because Guyger had left work, had gotten off her shift. The Dallas Police Department at first was trying to act as if, first they said it was officer involved, then they were trying to say it's not officer involved because she wasn't working at the time, even though she had on full uniform and she used her work gun, right? Yeah. But aren't they treating her like an officer? Yeah. They questioned her, let her leave, right? Sat and said, well, we're trying to figure out how we're going to charge her, if we're going to charge her, what we're going to charge her with. That could not be the case with me, you, or anyone else that's not law enforcement that is listening or watching right now. Right. She spent less than an hour. They let her go to a police station that was in a completely different jurisdiction, a Republican-held jurisdiction, by the way. And so she went there. In less than an hour, she was out, $300,000 bail. All of that covered by their version of the Fraternal Order of the Police, right? And she has been protected. I mean, they're talking about manslaughter charges. Manslaughter makes no sense here. This is not a heat of passion, from what we understand. This is not, she may have been mistaken about the apartment, but she wasn't mistaken about shooting at someone. She was real clear that that's what she was doing. Wow. This is a cold-blooded murder. Wow. Any way you flip it. Any way you flip it. And so there's calls that the organizations that are involved in the families asking for, as they've just buried Brother Botham yesterday, back in St. Lucia. They're calling for the kind of transparency that lets us hear the 911 tape. Yeah. They're calling for the toxicology report because allegedly they did tests on Guyger. They are calling for some audit of all of the communications between the mayor, city council, the Texas Rangers, the DA, and the police chief, because they've all said different things at different times. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like they've gotten together to cook up these 4 and 5 different stories to keep everyone off base and confused. And they're calling for a release of the information for the search of her place. So here's what's interesting.
Teach it.
They had a search warrant that they executed on Botham Jean's apartment, where they allegedly found some weed on the table. Or a counter. The ridiculous thing, I don't know why they did a search warrant. It's a crime scene. You don't need a search warrant. You just go into the place.
Do it.
You just do it, right?
That,
Now, they're being told by law enforcement or people in the criminal sanctions system there that no, they had to get a search warrant. But that doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense is you're getting a search warrant so you can go beyond the crime scene to see, can you find something that you can further blame and assassinate this brother with, right? Can you find a gun? Can you find a sharp knife? Can you find something that you might be able to now add to her story?
Never mind, he said his home. Of course there's knives. You're right.
And it's an open carry state. So if he had a weapon, he'd be allowed to. He didn't, but if he wanted to, he could, right?
Except he's black. Look, everybody, I turned all the way around. Now they got me in this conversation, right? So pardon my demeanor. But yeah, you're right. Let me, as you continue, let's get the listeners involved here. And hey, everybody, call in. The number is 323-293-3375. 323-293-3375. Call in if you can. I know you're hitting me up online, and that's great, but call in as well. Beachy, Sister Beatrice out of Oakland. Beachy, Sister Beatrice asked, what about the 2 witnesses who said they heard a conversation before the shooting?
Yes, there are 2 witnesses that live in the apartment complex that indicated that they heard one side of a conversation. They're saying they heard Guyger knock on the door and say, let me in, or open the door, something to that effect, obviously trying to get into the space. And those are the witnesses. There's no witnesses that we know of at this point that are saying that didn't happen, and sort of, mute people are being on the other way. But that's something, the family's attorneys and the family have spoken to those witnesses, at least the family's attorney. And so we're hopeful that they're going to continue to investigate that and to look through that.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Sister Mary Muhammad asked, will she get will she get prosecuted? What do you think?
Well, the thing is that they're going to bring it in front of a grand jury. I think the grand jury, depending on the pressure that's applied, and there's a lot of pressure that people are trying to apply, will come back with a charge, an indictment. It may be manslaughter as opposed to murder, right? But then we get all the questions that we always get, whether it be Oscar Grant, whoever the case is. Are they going to keep it in that jurisdiction?
That's right.
Are they going to move it to the Republican jurisdiction?
That's right.
Are they going to, change the venue? Are they going to put a certain judge on there that they figure is going to make it more difficult to prosecute?
Hey, Okubabi and Beachy, are they going to lie and say that they don't know what's happening with the jury instructions in the argument and then come back and say, oh, I made a mistake? Go ahead.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Are they going to put a prosecutor on there that doesn't know how to prosecute cops?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is going to make it so that the cop gets off, right? Yeah. So these are all the questions that we still have to have asked, including why we don't have the information on the search warrant that was executed on her place. See, people don't know there was a search warrant executed on you. You're hearing it here maybe first, okay?
Breaking news.
There was a search warrant that was executed on her apartment, on her phone, I believe on her computer, on her car, and we don't have that information. So you're going to tell us about the weed on the brother's counter, but you can't tell us about what's happening with her search warrant. And they're saying, oh, well, that was a leak. Well, your leaky department seems to only leak in a way that assassinates the character of the brother and doesn't do anything but protect Guyger, right?
So your leaky department. Look, if you all haven't seen Attorney Nana Gyamfi in court, take a glimpse of it now. Stay right here because this is just how she deals with it in court. But go ahead.
And so, we're concerned about it. We're, pursuing it. We're on it, making sure that justice is done to the degree that it can be, right, through this system. And trying to ask these types of questions. Give us more information about this woman, about her background, about any complaints that have been filed against her in the past. And this is not something, if you're bold enough. Oh, let me go backwards. Because she has killed someone or shot someone before.
Oh, wow.
She has shot someone before. In that case, it was a Latino brother who she shot before, right?
Okay.
So she hasn't worked that long, and she already jeopardizing people's lives.
Two down. We have a call.
Excellent.
We have a call. We'll
Excellent.
come back to that point. I want to make sure I'm telling them online, so y'all just not going to call. Thank you for calling Liberated Sisters. Who's this?
This is Sister Beatrice.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Beatrice.
Wa alaikum salam. I want to thank you, Sister Charlene, for sharing the minister again, as well as this wonderful show you have today with Attorney Nana.
Nana, yes.
Nana. I just wanted to say that you just can't wrap your mind around that. I feel like everybody in the United States should be in Texas. Not that he's the only one that's been murdered, but the goal and just the audacity to actually think that we that stupid,
Right.
I think that we should just all go to Texas.
Well,
okay?
I know.
Tell them for real, like we should take bus loads and say, like, for real, you can come into this brother's home and murder him and then give us BS? Are you really serious?
Absolutely. I mean, even how they put out the story about the so-called marijuana, they did that on the day of his funeral.
Disrespectful.
On the day of his funeral, or his memorial service, excuse me. The day of his memorial service in Dallas, they did that. The disrespect. Now, I know that there are some people that are going to Dallas. If you're near Dallas, if you can get to Dallas this Saturday, it would have been his 27th birthday. It brings chills.
Wow.
It would have been his 27th birthday.
Yeah.
And there's another brother who also was murdered by Dallas police some years ago. And it was also, he was born on the same day. And so they're going to be celebrating Brother Botham, Brother Clinton, both at the same time. And talking about this issue. Folks are coming from all over Texas and other states in on that date. And so if you have the capacity to do that, then, please do. Go to Mothers Against Police Brutality, go to .org, go to that website and get more information about those events.
Yeah. And don't forget, Sister Nana and Sister Beatrice, Jordan Edwards, the conviction, and they're calling it a slap on the wrist, but the attorneys are also saying, something. Was done, but the conviction against the cop that shot the young brother. What's going on with my mouth today? These braces together.
Yeah, no, it's so. I agree with you. It's an outrage. I mean, when you read her statement that she made to the police as they put in the search warrant, it's really like, come on. And then when does Peter Pan come in? And where's Tinkerbell? And when does Snow White appear? Where are the unicorns in the story? Wow. Because it literally makes no sense whatsoever. And yet they heard that story. And instead of locking her up immediately and charging her with murder, which they would have done to anyone else, they decided to go ahead and let her go and figure out, is there a crime even that's been committed? And there's been a lot of pushback, sister, through their media where you have different attorneys and police officers, different police heads who are saying no crime here already. Now, she was fired finally yesterday. So they did fire her. The police chief there did fire her, but they could have fired her earlier. Unlike what happened here in Inglewood, where we had a problem with the Donovan Jackson murder, where they were fired by then Mayor Dorn, the officers that were involved, and then they turned around and were able to sue and make money, right?
Yeah,
because
became millionaires,
right? Because the procedure wasn't done correctly. Yeah. In the case of Dallas, it says that the Dallas police chief can, on her own, have, terminate an officer based upon actions that are egregious. And so people felt like, hey, this should have happened 2 weeks ago. And so even though the family is, relieved that this person is still not running around here with a license to kill. They definitely have the attitude, as do the other organizations that are involved, that, hey, this is 2 weeks too late.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say, as we come up on the 10th year anniversary of the video execution of Oscar Grant, that is really heart-wrenching to I'm so, I don't know if it's because the anniversary is coming and we're getting there, but these shootings and these killings, they just seem to overwhelm families, because it just continues and continues and continues, passing as every family have an anniversary of the murder of their loved one. They have to include somebody else because the police done added somebody to it. It's really, really, really too much. And after 10 years, really, what has happened?
Yeah. Thank you for that sentiment.
We're still fighting for the same thing, just police accountability. Everybody is held accountable. As you said, Attorney, we wouldn't have went home that night.
No.
Somebody would have been raising bail in the millions.
Yeah. You can't even sit and get coffee. You can't even sit and get coffee. So just imagine committing a crime. Sister Beatrice, I want to say as you continue before we get some more people offline, I want to share some comments with you all offline. But we must remember, and I know you do, but Minister Farrakhan, just in the message that we heard, and again, it's at NOI.org or his YouTube page or his Facebook page. But Minister Farrakhan said at that meeting, as he said before, see, we look at Hurricane Florence, which is the Final Call's last week cover story, and we have follow-up in this week. But he says that these disasters and the way that God is striking and dealing with America is because of what she's doing and what she has planned for the people of God, for black folk and the original and the indigenous, the way that we're being slaughtered. He said, gunning people down in the street, killing our children, killing our men, violating our women. And so we see that this is escalating. And he has said it's going to get worse before it gets better. And they see our communities as a playground. This is a war game that's happening. But I just wanted to remind us of that. This is how we see this long list. Now, we don't like it. Just because it's prophesied, just because it's ordained doesn't mean we like it. But go ahead, you two.
Yeah, no, I think...
I was just going to... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sister. Go ahead.
Beachy, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I want to be like the minister when I grow up. We all want to be like him in his understanding and desire. But, when this pain, hits, you want something to happen, like, right now.
That's right.
Somebody gets got right now.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah, you want the justice is swift, and it is happening. And it's interesting because it's not happening like necessarily on that individual officer or on that individual family. The magnitude is that he's knocking out cities. Whole regions. But I understand totally what you're saying, sister. And I look at the mothers, Sister Deanna, Joseph Hardy and her husband. I look at, oh my God, I'm not even about to start calling a roll. I'm just going to stop right there. I'm going to stop. Can't call the roll.
Just say all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
That's right.
And we don't look at the fact of, we talk about the mothers, but we have the fathers.
That's right.
We have the siblings.
That's right.
We have the grandmothers.
Right. The friends.
Everybody
the community.
Impacted by this police terrorism that's happening to us in our community.
Yeah.
And it's terrorism. We were actually I was in Sacramento last week with Stephon Clark's grandmother and mother and family, as this is 6 months. They don't know anything. They are really being the way that they are in Sacramento. And I'll tell you, those police officers look like those police officers in Ferguson, straight rednecks.
Wow.
And they were so rude. But what I'm saying is that the impact that it has, we can't get no justice, okay? We can't even get accountability. And I think that it's really, we had these laws that we were trying to pass, but at the end, you want the law, people who pushing the law want to get a police $10 million or whatever.
Exactly.
In the process. Right. So how are we gonna? What are we gonna do, people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to have a real serious revolution when it comes to this holding police accountable, because our families are being destroyed by this terrorism
Separation.
that's happening.
Separation.
Yes,
it's a trick.
definitely.
That's why Black Lives Matter, just what you're talking about, Black Lives Matter pulled out of I think it was the one that was being pushed by our sister in San Diego. Pardon me if I have it wrong, but they were like, we were with this, but we found out that there's money written in for the cops. But this is what happened. Gang intervention. When Villaraigosa, Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa was mayor, there's money written in, Feinstein, all of them, meaning Senator Dianne Feinstein, money written into these do-good bills for the people, for those that are perpetrating these atrocious acts on them. But thank you, Sister Beatrice, for calling in. You can stay with us if you want. You're more than welcome. I want to give it to Nana and put some people, give some comments online, and then we can just keep going.
Thank you so much, Charlene, and thank you so much, Sister Beatrice. Yeah, I mean, the people are the power, and one thing that you can say, you cannot go anywhere right now and not find Black people who are actively pushing back against police crimes, you can't go anywhere. I mean, abolition, talking about abolishing police and abolishing jails, that used to be something just for those who, people thought were conspiracy theorists and not quite right in the head, right? And now that's a common conversation. And so I think that there's progress that's being made. We do have convictions that are happening, even though it's not that often.
That's right.
But progress is being made. The thing is that the power is with the people, period. And so it's on us, not necessarily through our electoral, even though that may be one piece of it, but it's on us really to exercise the power and to define and decide what that's going to look like and what we are interested in that looking like. And I think once we get more on the same page about that, we'll be able to see more progress.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
once folks that are on the same page get together, whatever your piece is, then I think that we're going to see more progress. And this is why I co-founded Justice Warriors for Black Lives.
Come on,
right? So that before you put forth this legislation, pass it by us. Pass it by us so we can put our black eye on it, right? And see, is this something that's really moving this movement forward or not? Because that's not what's happening. The ACLU has its work, but look, the ACLU will represent you today and the Klan tomorrow.
Man, come
on. So
stop
passing it by them and making them be the decision makers about whether this is a good move or not from the legal perspective. And pass it by a group like Justice Warriors for Black Lives, and let us put our eye on it and let you know, because we deal with it in the courtroom, on the streets, as part of our lived experience, and we can let you know, is this really going to help our people or not?
Very good. Now, I just posted that. Go ahead, Sister Beatrice.
I just want to say this before I leave. I have to go, but I just want to comment on what the attorney said is so true. That we the people, but the thing that we have been harking for years and years. Please don't let it wait till it happens to you. Your family.
Right. That's right.
To me personally, that's the slowdown.
Yeah.
People don't want to get involved until it happens to you.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Tell this story about Sister Dion Smith in Stockton. She was on the front line when Oscar was murdered in 2009, not knowing that just a year and a half later that her son, 16 years old, would be murdered. To me, she's a mother's hero because she was out there before it happened to her son.
Wow.
Right.
And the sad part, it did happen, but, we have to be out there before it happens.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Everybody has to be out there. Don't wait till it comes to your door.
Yeah.
Coming to your door is too late, if we could understand that.
Right.
That's right.
It coming to your door is too late for us as a whole and as a people. We just lost another one. If you're coming in after it happened to you.
Right.
The whole idea is preventative measures. And like you said, all power to the people collectively. We have to wake up, and we have to stand up, and we have to stand up, and we have to unite and come together. And we cannot wait to this phone call or this knock, and it's just yours, because in truth, they're all ours.
That's right.
Now babies, they are all ours.
That's right.
To fight for all.
Yeah, you're right.
So thank you.
Oh
thank you,
God.
Attorney.
Thank you.
talking to you soon because we have a lot of work to do.
All right.
Pass it by them black eyes, okay?
Okay, all righty.
Walaikum salam. Love you, Sister Beatrice. She's absolutely right. Let me give you some comments from some of our viewers online. Well, oh my God. Well, Facebook is taking some away, but I know that
goodness.
Kevin Muhammad, when it's live, it doesn't give me all of the feedback. But Sister Beatrice, if you could see it, post some of the feedback so that I can give it to Nana, please. But I remember Kevin Muhammad was saying, he asked, was there going to be a prosecution? I think we had that answered already. Leontine Price, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the great Leontine.
That's going to be interesting.
Leontine King Daughtery, one of my high school classmates. My high school classmate, she says, you're awesome. She loves you. She's now in Dallas. That your son and her child, because it's gone, went to school together.
Oh,
so she
lovely.
sends you a happy face.
Excellent.
But I'm not able to see the comments. We had plenty, but that's okay. We don't, I'm sorry, everybody. You can kind of get the gist of what Nana is saying. I want to have you give another remark, not a closing remark, but your follow-up remark on what Beatrice was saying, and I'll pull some more. Let's hit some more.
Oh, yeah. I think that we do need to understand that we have to get involved. What did the great philosopher say? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh, you mean, okay, that's right. But I'll tell you about the great philosopher. We know here too, Sister Vicky Lindsay. Shout out to her. Mother's Pride No More. Get involved. It's happening from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hood.
That's right. And so it's like we need to get involved. And it's okay if your involvement comes out of something that happens to you and your loved one. We're not knocking that. That's what happened to Ida B. Wells.
That's right.
Our great mama, right? And
true.
It's like her friends got lynched and she was already kind of in it, but then she was like, oh no, now we got to throw down. This is ridiculous. And so that's okay.
Yeah.
But if we can get involved before, then that's even better.
We want to stop it.
We want to prevent. So I think that's important. And kind of segueing to this black immigrant piece of it, that's another part. This is why it's so critical that instead of us fighting with each other, that we actually unite the diaspora, right? Yeah. That we push back against the wedges that have been placed clearly by the same forces that are bombing and terrorizing us, whether, from Accra to Atlanta, from Cape Coast to Chicago, right? From, Africa, the continent to Africa, Texas, right? I mean, we're being terrorized by these same white folks, these same, anti-black capitalist folks. And so I think that we need to talk to each other and understand that it is because of that they have created a us versus them situation. When we learn, as we have in the State of Black Immigrant Report, California, that Black Alliance for Just Immigration just did, they talk about 20% of all black immigrants in the state of California live below the poverty line. So no, we are not all big, rich, prince and princesses or whatever. Exactly. That's not America. The situation. We had Stephen Pitts at this town hall that we just did last week, Uniting the Diaspora, talk about how even in terms of jobs, public sector jobs generally are jobs being held in terms of black folks by African Americans. And then jobs that have to do with health care, for the most part, the majority are in terms of black folks are being held by black immigrants.
Wow.
And then when it comes to every other job, we're all in the same boat. Yeah. We're all in the same space. And so this idea that black immigrants are taking jobs away from African Americans, it's just not really real. Right. So we're in different spheres. And we need to figure out where we are working together and where we see these wedges that they're trying to make. Yeah. Even to Hollywood. That's right. Fighting between who should play this person and who should play that person. So, you don't want the Nigerian Brit to play the Harriet Tubman, but it's okay for a brother Chad Boswick from the United States to play the African King T'Challa. Or it's okay for Jennifer Hudson to play Winnie Mandela, right? So it's not saying that there's not issues there, but I'm hoping, I wish that the grand poobah, Donald Glover would speak to this. Danny Glover, would speak to this, because I've seen him in Nigerian produced films.
Oh yeah,
I've seen him, right, and he's great, right, and so it's like it doesn't have to be that we constantly are fighting on our ethnic grounds. Yeah. right? Because that leads to death. I was telling someone recently, when you look at the fights that we have on the continent ethnically, when you look at what's happening in Dominican Republic between Haiti and the folks of the Dominican Republic, when you look at what happened with Biggie and Tupac, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but this is like
real
ethnic issues that we then allow to get raised. I'm West Coast, you're East Coast, I'm Ghana, you're Nigeria, I'm Jamaica, you're Belize. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People die.
Yeah.
People get hurt, people get injured, and our communities suffer.
Isn't it the gun is pointed in the wrong direction?
Exactly.
I'm not advocating shooting anybody. I'm just saying these are fueled, in my personal opinion, because you can keep people fighting over here, over, like you said, acting roles and who's going to play what. And then we have this bigger issue here.
Absolutely. And, we're all being exploited because that's what capitalism does. That's what anti-blackness does. It exploits us. So basically, the analogy I give is Thomas Jefferson raped Sally Hemings. Then Aquia comes, and then he starts raping Aquia. Aquia feels blessed to be raped because she gets to be with Thomas Jefferson, and Tommy is telling her everything is great. Sally is mad because Aquia is being raped by Tommy. She's not being raped by Tommy anymore. You can do the same thing, the same analogy, with any black person of any gender identity. The whole point is that why are we fighting to be the exploited one?
Exactly.
Why are we fighting to be the raped one? Yes, we need jobs. We need employment. We need stability. We need entrepreneurship. We've got to pay bills and we've got to eat. No question. And we have to sit down and have a conversation about how we get those things. Mm-hmm. But the conversation should be, how do we get it from them? Mm-hmm. Not how do we, keep each other from getting it. But, you know who really has jobs? White people. How do we get the jobs from them?
Oh, we're not getting those. Y'all better separate. Look, we got a call. We're coming to you, caller. It is time to separate.
Oh, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying for those folks that are here right now and trying to deal in the meantime.
Yours. Yeah.
Go get theirs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get what you're saying.
We're separating, and then sock that money aside so we can separate properly.
Away. Let's go to the call. Okay, thank you, caller, for waiting.
Oh, this is me, Sister B.
Oh, hey.
I just wanted to help you out with the Kevin Muhammad's question.
Thank you.
As well as I wanted the attorney to speak on, is there a national movement? Because I work with a lot of our Latino family and immigration, but as I spoke last week, I know our people, if they getting it like that, we getting it triple time worse.
Absolutely.
But there's not a loud outcry about it. And is there a national movement that people of color, the universal color, we are universal, if we can get involved in that national movement for people of color immigration?
That's
and also, right. Kevin Muhammad asked, what does justice look like, and is the family suing, and how much is a black life worth?
That's a lot of questions right there.
I know we have let's say 6 minutes.
I'm going to talk fast. Okay, so the organization you're looking for is the organization that I am vice chair of the board on and managing director for, and it's called Black Alliance for Just Immigration. You can go to the website at baji.org. And we have a chapter with organizers and an organizing committee right there in the Bay. We were founded 12 years ago, and our founding chapter is in the Bay. So go to that website, baji.org, baji.org.
I posted it, everybody.
And you can be plugged right in. There's so much work that we're doing with the Movement for Black Lives, apart from the Movement for Black Lives, but all of it focused on black migrants or black immigrants and African Americans and how we work together to create that power that we need to have. So please check that out. I'm asking, everyone, go ahead and check that out. Yeah. With respect to Brother Keith's questions, Brother Kevin's questions, people define things differently. I mean, for me, justice is a holistic, communal piece. Mm-hmm. So it is not justice if only the cop gets fired.
It's
not justice if the cop gets fired and the cop gets, and they sue the city. It's not justice if the cop gets fired, they sue the city, and the cop goes to jail. All of that still is not justice to me, right? Because the family is still in the same place and the community is still in the same place. So for me, justice in these cases equals the abolition of the police. Justice equals divestment from police and jails and investment in the community. Justice equals us being able to have our own sort of center and place where we handle our own disputes, so we're not calling the police into our space at all.
What are you doing here? Who called you, as Dr. Ava says?
Right.
Who called you?
That's all of that is a part of justice. And so I'm not saying that the police should not, I'm an abolitionist, so I don't advocate necessarily people going to jail because I'm trying to get rid of jails. Okay. But in the meantime, until abolition comes, I'm not saying that cops should not, that's not a part of justice. I'm not saying the lawsuits aren't a part of justice. It's real justice if the money came out of the cop's pocket, though. It'd be more justice if it came out of the cop's pension, though. It'd be more justice if they came up to the station that the cop worked at and started taking away their shiny toys to try to pay for it, though. Because I'm sure they would sit down and have a conversation about how you got to stop doing this because they taking our stuff from us, right? So that would be more justice. It wouldn't be justice completely, but it would be more justice. It would be more justice if folks were fired, right? That would be more justice. It would be more justice if we had access to all of these files so we know who these police officers are, just as people have access to attorneys and everybody else's information, right? Complaints, etc. So we have more justice that we can push for within the system. But if we want justice, we got to bring this one down.
No, wow. Great points. Great points. I want to mention something to both of you all. And it speaks to what you said earlier, Sister Beatrice. So in the Final Call newspaper, I'll let you know it's Sister Nisa and Brother Barrington Salmon. Yes, Barrington Salmon and Sister Nisa Islam Muhammad wrote this story in the paper, Children Are Left Behind. This is in the Final Call newspaper. Young people suffer trauma, struggles, and challenges while enduring arrest of loved ones. This is a new report. And the report is put out by a trio of scholars, Dr. Bahia Muhammad, Professor Tina Simmons, and Cassandra Dodd. They produced this study published in the American University Business Law Review in August, and it's titled The Cost of the Government's Failure to Protect Children Witnessing Parental Arrest and Detainment. Let me say, thank Allah for you, sisters. I want to get into this article. We're not going to do it now, but it's at finalcall.com. But it details in stark terms the traumatic effects children suffer when they witness a parent or guardian being arrested. It's just what Sister Beatrice and Attorney Nana are talking about right out of today. So the Final Call newspaper is cutting edge, and it's right with the pulse of the people. Clearly that. But I wanted to let you all know that was there in this current edition.
And that's, again, just because I know our time is winding down, another place where the blackness and immigration collide, right? Because when you're a black immigrant, you are more criminalized than any other group of migrants because you're black.
Wow.
Right? So you are looking out for what is going to happen to you, and your children are watching you be dragged away because of immigration. Yeah. And your children are watching you being dragged away because of your criminalization. Yeah. A double impact.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot. We have a lot that we're under. All. Sister Beatrice, you want to take 5 seconds and say something?
Well, I just want to say that I'm going to read that report, and I really can unfortunately imagine, because we've been here 460 plus years, and it has not been good for us. And it continues not to be good for us. We have tried everything for 463 years plus to act like we can still live and thrive in this, and we have, but the truth is, we are oppressed psychologically to the fullest. And something, whether the Stevie Wonder stuff, something's going to pop, it's going to pop.
She always got a knack. It's
This is the new babies. You know what I mean? The new babies. They're not gonna take this.
Well, I just want to say the old babies didn't take it either. Don't forget, the old babies also didn't take it.
That's right. That's right. We would have been demolished a long time ago.
No, we didn't take it. We fought. But what I'm saying, we have a new. It's a new baby on the planet.
Right.
It just is. They don't understand. They're not understanding like us. You know. They want everything to be fair. They come out wanting fairness at 1 and 2 years old.
But it's right. It's right.
Right.
So
right.
we're gonna. I'll leave it.
You ever had a 2-year argument over you about something being fair? You know.
No, grandmother. She's speaking out of grandmothership.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
Hey, Sister Beatrice, I'm gonna leave it there because we got to get out. But thank you so much for calling. You added tremendously to the show, and Sister Nana, of course.
I love Sister Attorney.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Contacting the organization, and we will, because my heart, I just know that it's something we have to expose. That immigration part that's not being talked about.
That's right.
Thank you so very much.
That's right. Bring her out to Families United for Justice. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Nana.
Thank you so much for having me as usual.
I'm so
I
glad.
appreciate you.
And appreciate 2 hours.
Appreciate Morris Media Studios.
Yes.
Thank you. Always fab.
Yeah, Black Media. So look, that is our show for today. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad saying finalcall.com. I'm going to be saying that. That's our flagship newspaper. What are you reading? Where are you getting your news from? And we're not saying just read the Final Call, but when you want the truth, that's where I'm telling you, you should get the Final Call. This cover story this week is dealing again with Minister Farrakhan's message to the black pastors. That was in Chicago. You can get that at NOI.org. And I want to say thank you too as well to our producer here and engineer, but owner of Morris Media Studios, young black woman, Sister Felicia, the poetess Morris. Thank you for having Liberated Sisters here. I want to say, in the words of our Western Region Minister, Attorney Muhammad, meet me at the mosque. That's 8701 South Vermont at Manchester every Sunday. The doors open at 10:30. We start at 11. Here, Liberated Sisters this Friday, 8 a.m. on Radio Justice, radiojustice.org. On Saturday, kpfk.org, same time, 8 o'clock. And also, please like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad saying if it can impact our people or can uplift us as a people, let's talk about it. Peace.